Section 1. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Now, how do you make all that happen? You might feel overwhelmed by all the choices, but there are people and agencies to help. Career Services is a great website with lots of useful information and a search tool for finding courses and providers throughout the country. Then there are the tertiary education institutions themselves. Universities and institutes of technology, for example, have comprehensive information on their particular websites. You can find out most anything there. Many campuses have a student support association, and they can tell you a lot about what to expect. Don't be afraid to ask them anything. I'm sure they've heard it all before. It might also be worthwhile to make inquiries with potential employers to see if they will fund or partially fund your studies. If it is a trade you want to learn, the apprenticeship scheme will help you earn while you learn. That way you'll get valuable work experience while you're studying. If you're still at school, then search out your school careers advisor, who will have a variety of information and resources at hand and be able to give you the kind of guidance you need to make a fully informed decision. And last but not least, don't forget your parents and other family members. They can be of enormous help too. Oh, one last thing that might help you make up your mind. Have you thought of applying for a scholarship? Some embassies, governments, and individual institutions offer scholarships to cover part or all of your study fees. Most large libraries have a comprehensive catalogue of the various grants, awards, and scholarships that are available.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
A good way for children to learn and have fun at the same time is the website mathtutor.com. They can practice mathematics on this site, no matter what their level, while they compete against other children from all over the world. And here's a fun way for primary school children to learn the spelling words for the week. It can be such a chore for some children. They just type them in and play games to learn them. What's that? The website? Oh, sorry. Yes, you'll need to go to spellcity.com for that. The one I'm going to tell you about now is one of the most practical sites that's popular with people of all ages. Children, or parents for that matter, can learn to touch type as they sing along with songs. And there's a variety of funny characters to help you enjoy yourself as you learn. In this day and age, typing is essential. Everyone should be able to type fast and accurately. So, go to beeb.co/typing and try it out. Don't just leave it up to the kids. Here's a site that parents can use to download worksheets to extend their children by giving them further practice. It's called coolresources.com, and I can really recommend it, particularly for middle school students. Now, are there any questions?
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 2. Section 2. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 16.
Right. Well, David, I think it's a good idea to talk a little about your plans for going on to do an MA. Now, I understand you're thinking in terms of either Forth College or Haynes College?
That's right. Well, so far, anyway.
No, I think that's a good choice to have narrowed it down to.
I'm interested to know how the services to support students work in both places.
Yes, I know you've needed to make use of those here in the last year. I have to say I'm not absolutely sure about the situation at Haynes. I expect they're all right, but certainly Forth has a good reputation in that regard. They have a large number of students from abroad, and they have to make sure they're okay.
That's reassuring. And then I'll be moving city again, obviously, whichever college I go to, and I hope that the room or flat I could expect would be nice.
Very important, yes. These days, actually, all colleges tend to have decent quality rooms or flats for their students, and Forth and Haynes are no exception.
Right. Well, what about comparisons on the academic side of things?
Well, I know you're an avid user of the limited online provision we have here. I think you'll find Haynes is about as developed, or not, as we are here, and that Forth has developed some pretty impressive stuff, which I'm sure you'd make the most of.
Well, I'd certainly try.
But that doesn't mean that the more traditional information sources, such as the good old-fashioned library, should be forgotten.
No, of course not.
While Forth has recently had a very splendid law library opened, that isn't particularly relevant for you, and I think you'd find Haynes' general university and faculty collections better suited to your needs. But that's something you could check for yourself if you visit both places.
Which I'm planning to do next month.
Good. Now, there's the question of the lecturing staff, which is clearly going to be key to your progress. I think you'd find them adequate at Forth. There are some solid people working there, while Haynes have recently taken on some inspirational people, very cutting edge. It's a little hard to judge, though, because as a research student, it's not as if you have teaching all day, every day.
No, I guess not. But I'll need to consult.
Yes, and on the subject of research, in terms of the college's reputation for results, again, neither place is bad in any way, but I think you'll find, and you can check this on the Research Council's website, that Haynes has consistently scored very well. There's perhaps a little bit of an issue with non-completing doctorate students at Forth.
Well, I'll certainly look at the website as you suggest.
Fine.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 17 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 17 to 20.
Is there anything else I can help you with?
Yes, the reading list is quite long. Where do you think I should start?
Well, I'd suggest you leave the articles until the semester is underway, but a good preparation would be to look at some of the major texts. These ones here.
In any particular order?
You could start with this one by Tower, here at the bottom of the page.
Sorry, who?
Tower. Tower, 2007, Comparative Education. That should give you a good basis. Then move on to Eliot, Educational Issues of the New Millennium. But be sure to get the 2008 edition, not the original 1998 edition, because so much has changed since 1998. The new edition has extensive revisions and a lot of new material.
OK, so that's Tower first, then Eliot. I think I could handle a couple more over the summer break.
Well, in that case, look for Brown's Education and Globalization, published in 2009. Actually, there are quite a few books by Brown, but I'd start with that one and leave his others till much later. And I'd also really recommend this one here, Globalization and Knowledge Policy by York, published quite recently in fact, 2010.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 3. Section 3. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
And here on Radio Rivendell, we have Lynn Rawley, the Public Relations Officer of our own Rivendell City Theatre. Hello, Lynn.
Hello.
Now, the theatre is reopening soon after its 3-year redevelopment program, isn't it?
That's right, and there are a lot of improvements. The first thing people will see when they go in is that the foyer has been repainted in the original green and gold. Then the box office has been reoriented with its own access from the side of the building instead of through the foyer, which means it can be open longer hours and has more space too. The shop that used to be in the foyer, which sold books and CDs, is the one part of the redevelopment which isn't yet complete. The plan is to find new premises for it near the theatre, and we've had difficulty finding somewhere suitable. We hope to reopen the shop in the next few months.
Will audiences find any difference in the auditorium?
Yes, we've increased the legroom between the rows. This means that there are now fewer seats, but we're sure audiences will be much happier. And we've installed air conditioning so it won't get so hot and stuffy. We already had a few seats which were suitable for wheelchair users, and now there are twice as many, which we hope will meet demand. Something else that will benefit audiences is the new lifts. The two we used to have were very small and slow. They've now gone, and we've got much more efficient ones.
Anything for the performers?
Yes, we've made a number of improvements backstage. The small, dark dressing rooms we used to have been converted into 2 large, airy rooms, so they're much more comfortable now. and the state-of-the-art electronic sound and lighting systems have been installed.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Well, Tessa, what I need to know now is what your schedule is like, so that we can fit you into the roster here. Can I assume that you're not able to work Monday to Friday during office hours?
Right. I'm very busy with lectures, workshops and assignments during the week.
How about weeknights? Say 5 to 7 in the evening. That's a very busy time in the children's section.
Well, I couldn't commit to more than 3 evenings a week, and even then it would depend on my schedule.
Yes, I understand. If possible, we could make arrangements a week in advance. Would that help?
Yes, that might work.
Are weekends okay?
Well, Sundays are out. Actually, only every other Sunday, because that's when I'm usually needed at the hospital. But I'm free on Saturday afternoons.
All right. We could roster you for the odd weekend then. What about school holidays?
Definitely. No problem whatsoever. I don't have any other commitments during the holidays.
That's good to hear. We have droves of children here in the holidays, as you can imagine. Thank you. Well, Tessa, we'll send you a letter of appointment in the mail, and we look forward to having you join us as a volunteer.
Thanks very much.
Now, as for your duties...
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Ever since it was first served and eaten at the wedding feast of Charles XI of France and Elizabeth of Austria way back in 1570, the consumption of turkey meat has continued to grow. In recent years, the popularity and subsequent interest in turkey farming has also grown substantially, and along with this interest, there have been a number of significant changes which have occurred in turkey production, which I'd like to point out to you all. In some of the larger companies in the UK, understanding of genetics has been used to good effect, with selected stock showing an increase in growth rate and a higher proportion of lean, white breast meat. Turkey breeding companies operating from the UK have achieved an important position in the European market, as well as having a part of the market share in the USA. Knowledge of the nutrient requirements of turkeys has also advanced, and diets to exploit the genetic potential for rapid growth have been formulated with great precision. Canada and North America have led the way in this area. Different feeding strategies are employed within the industry to control the nutrient intake of breeder flocks. These management techniques usually involve limiting the availability of feed, especially to the older males. The intention is to slow down growth rate, thus reducing the likelihood of leg disorders and to maximise breeder production. Throughout the world, the most serious infectious diseases that have impacted upon turkey health are now almost entirely controlled due to improvements in site hygiene and the introduction of live and killed vaccines. In addition, the geographical isolation of turkey-growing farms remains an important means of limiting the spread of disease. Now, throughout the USA and Britain, controlled environment housing now operates with greater precision since the ventilation requirements of the stock are better understood. Approximately 90% of the birds in the UK, for example, are produced in large flocks on commercial sites which require precise control of temperature. Feeding and drinking systems have been increasingly mechanised in order to improve efficiency and to ensure that the birds receive adequate fresh feed and water. Equipment such as artificial lighting is also used to overcome the long winters in some of the more extreme areas of the world. While quite popular early on, a vast majority of turkeys are no longer beak trimmed. However, in most cases where birds are kept in natural daylight, the beaks are usually trimmed when the birds are only a few days old.
Hi, can I help you?
I was told to come here because I'd like to talk to someone about taking a management course.
Right, I'm one of the tutors, so I should be able to help you.
Oh, good. My name's Brian Ardley. I've decided to enrol on a part-time management course. A friend of mine took one last year and recommended it to me.
Right.
Is there anything I should do before the course, like reading or anything?
We prefer to integrate reading with the course, so we don't give out a reading list in advance. But we like people to write a case study describing an organisation they know.
I've already done that, as my friends told me you wanted one. But would it be possible to sit in on a teaching session to see what it's like? I haven't been a student for quite a while.
Fine. Just let me know which date and I'll arrange it with the tutor.
Now, could I ask you about the college facilities, please?
Anything in particular?
Well, the course is 1 day a week, all day, isn't it? So presumably it's possible to buy food.
Yes, the refectory's open all day.
Does it cater for special diets? I have some food allergies.
Provided you warn the refectory in advance, it won't be a problem.
Good. What about facilities for young children? I'd like to bring my daughter here while I'm studying.
How old is she?
3.
Then she's eligible to join the nursery, which is supervised by a qualified nursery nurse. The waiting list for a place is quite long, though, so you ought to apply now.
OK.
I don't know if our careers advice service would be of any interest to you.
Yes, it might help me decide how to develop my career after the course.
The centre has a lot of reference materials and staff qualified to give guidance on a one-to-one basis.
I noticed the fitness centre next to the college. Is that for students?
It's open to everyone, but students pay an annual fee that's much less than the general public pay.
And presumably the college library stocks newspapers and journals as well as books.
Yes, and there's also an audio-visual room for viewing and listening to videos, cassettes and so on.
Is there also access to computers?
Yes. Your tutor will need to arrange with the technical support team for you to get a password, so ask him or her about it when you start the course.
Okay.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.